Hello and welcome to the Night Hammer Reviews, Diablo 3. I actually just finished Diablo 3 today. Single playthrough took me about 18 hours, and I'm going to sit here and talk about the pros and the cons of the game that I found. I actually took notes as I was playing the game, because one of the things I want to get into more often is doing reviews of the games I play. Because when I'm not Let's Playing, I am actually an avid gamer. I play a lot of different games, a lot of different types of games. So, I'm trying to get into a more structured style of review. So, I'll start with the pros. Now, when Diablo 3 was coming out, I really only expected one thing from it, and that's that my right index finger was going to be incredibly tired while playing it from clicking things to death. And there's just it's just a subtle amount of fun. Like, there's just something fun about mindlessly clicking something until it dies. I mean, I find Zerg Rush on Google incredibly fun, and it's essentially the same thing, except you can't win. But anyhow, I expected a loot ladder, I expected some good loot generation, and I expected to click things until they died. And that is what this game delivers, so I can say I wasn't really disappointed with it. It didn't blow my mind, but I definitely wasn't disappointed. The combat it's definitely fluid and smooth. It's intuitive to use, especially if you play a lot of MMOs or other games like RTSs that require use of the number keys. It's just an intuitive interface to use, and I found it really easy to pick up, as it should be. You just click things. But delving into the skill system really got simplified from Diablo 2. I don't like it, but I don't like it. I don't like the lack of customization, but I do feel that the skill system mechanically is pretty solid. It does offer you choices in the runes that you use with each skill to give each skill kind of a unique effect to each class. I played a Barbarian. I beat the game around level 31, took me about 18 hours. And, you know, that's a significant amount of time for a game these days, considering I pretty much rushed through most of the content. Another thing that I really liked was the way that Blizzard handled multiplayer. In multiplayer, it's really easy to get together with groups of your friends. Like, I did a little bit of co-op with Gene on his main character and my main, because they were about the same levels at the time. And so we did a little bit of co-op. We found that grouping, it's incredibly easy, and then once you're on a server with another player, it's incredibly easy to group with that person for shared rewards and experience boosts. And then Blizzard completely redid their looting system. Now, there are separate loot drops for both characters when we kill a monster or open a chest. He can't see what drops for me, I can't see what drops for him. Therefore, this takes out all of the loot ninjaing, which I'm kind of famous for in the Epic Gamers. Whenever we play games, I am a loot whore, and I'm not ashamed of it. But if, say, he passes on the loot, essentially, if he picks up the loot and throws it on the ground, which Gene does, I'll generally pick it up until my inventory is full, and then I'll town portal back to town to sell everything. Town portals and scrolls of identify, those are gone now. I really liked this change from my loot horse sort of thing. All blue items come already identified, and the only thing you have to identify is yellows. Or rares, rather. Rares have a random set of properties that are determined after you identify it, which you can do for free. It just takes time. Town portals are the same thing. You can do it for free an unlimited number of times, but, you know, it just takes time to cast, instead of being instant like it used to be. So, no instant escapes. Now, once in town, with your loot, there are several things you can do. You can either just sell it outright, or for magical things, you can choose to disenchant it and use the blacksmith. I didn't use the blacksmith at all. I just can't get into the I can't get into the crafting system of this game at all. It just seems rather cumbersome and tacked on. And I'm starting to get into it now that I'm on Nightmare and kind of have money to play around and throw at it. But it's just not my thing. I'm normally a crafter in MMOs, but it's just such an impersonal thing to do, the way they implemented it. You have a blacksmith who you train, he learns new recipes, and I don't know, it's simplistic. I guess a lot of my complaints about this game are simplistic or having to do with other things, but I'll get to that. It's just not something I used. The jeweler uses a similar system, and that's how you get jewels from cracked, or flawed I believe is the lowest tier, all the way up to perfect and beyond. I used that because I felt I had to, because in this game you can actually remove gems from sockets. So that once you use a gem, it's not gone. So in this game, I actually get to use gems on things that aren't best in slot. And I really like that. I do really like a lot of things about this game, and I will get to the cons. I'm getting there. I've mentioned some smaller things. Like, I don't like the lack of choice that we have in the skill system. We have some, but not a lot. There's not going to be a lot of customized. Every single class is going to essentially have the same build and the same abilities queued up in endgame. I can already see it now once the theory crafters get finished doing their work. Now, to rare monsters and unique monsters, Blizzard added a bunch of interesting monster abilities. Things like wallers, or teleporters, or others that have different elementals, like, I believe it's molten. As the monster runs around, it's going to leave like this molten pool and trail that harms you if you stand in it. So, that's some awesome thing. And there's shock. We all remember the shock from Diablo 2. It was the bane of my paladin. That's back in there. Ice, for like the icy monsters. Frozen, I believe, is their little thing. They'll like throw out a bunch of ice balls and they'll grow, and you kind of have to get out of it or you'll be frozen. Like, be not able to do anything frozen solid, not move frozen, not the, oh, movement and attack speed slowed frozen. Now, all that's all well and good. There's Nightmarish, which causes you fear and flee, and I really hate Nightmarish. They're just annoying. Now, most rares only have one of these abilities on normal. It really starts getting interesting once you get into the higher difficulties, like Nightmare. I'm most of the way through Act 1 Nightmare at this point. But they start mixing and matching the abilities, like some uniques and rares have 2 or 3 abilities now, and the AI will use these abilities in tandem. Like a Waller with Frozen, the Waller will wall you in and then place a frozen orb that'll keep you frozen in there. Or Teleportation will wall you in and then teleport around and use ranged attacks. It really, really ups the difficulty just by the monsters getting smarter with their AI. And I look forward to playing this in Hell mode and above. I believe there's one more mode above Hell. I think it's Inferno mode or something like that. Now, the thing I don't like about this system is the fact that it's not in the normal mode. And a lot of people are only going to play through normal. Not a lot of people are hardcore and going to play through Nightmare and Hell. So they're not going to get to see a lot of this cool stuff that Blizzard did. And also, as an add-on to combat, there are a lot of destructible environments, and throughout the whole campaign, you can use the environment against the monsters. Like, there'll be barrels that you can hit and they'll explode, and they'll deal damage to the monsters, or like lantern oil that will spill across, or you can collapse walls, or trigger like log traps to go roll over your enemies. And like dropping chandeliers on them. This is something that just continues on through every act, and it's a really brilliant way to use the destructible environments that Blizzard threw in. Alright, now before I move into my mini rant that is the things I don't like about this game, and then my final verdict on the game, I will talk about the one artistic choice that Blizzard made that I liked about Diablo 3. And that was I liked the ability to dye my armor and make my character look unique through the colors that he uses. I mean, this is just a touch that they didn't need to put in, that is just completely extra and is kind of like a money sink if you want to keep looking a certain way. But it's just, I appreciate that. As somebody who likes to use custom appearances in things like Lord of the Rings Online, I just kind of appreciate that, and I really like that. And now I kind of have to gather myself before I move into the little mini rant. I only have a couple of points here for the cons, but to me they're big ones. Now I'm going to address the biggest one first, the one that makes me rage hardest, and that is the art style and design of the game. It's a totally just for looks kind of thing, but Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 were established as the games where people looked like people. They weren't overly stylized. It was dark. It was gritty. It had a more realistic look and tone, even if it was fantasy. And a lot of the fantasy stuff didn't show up until you were high level with the ridiculously powerful magic armor and magic weapons that were essentially unique. Now, if they want to go out on the design of like unique armor and weapons, that's cool. That's the fantasy part coming in. But for something like chainmail, regular white chainmail, or pauldrons, they shouldn't look ridiculous. It shouldn't look like I'm playing a cross between World of Warcraft and StarCraft. And that's what the overall major art design and monster design looked like to me. A lot of the monsters looked like they were they just looked like World of Warcraft rejects. Like, they're like, this doesn't quite seem to fit World of Warcraft, but it fits World of Warcraft, so we're going to throw it away and, we'll shove it into Diablo 3 somewhere. I mean, I know World of Warcraft and Warcraft and StarCraft, they were kind of inspired by Diablo, but no, they shouldn't, it just shouldn't look like this. I feel like they should have kept with the Diablo 2 motif and the way that everything felt. I just felt like a lot of the I'm so frustrated with it. I'm having a hard time describing it, but just the style of the world, the sense of the world, it just isn't there. Because when you look at the world, it doesn't look like the same world from Diablo 1 and 2. Nothing looks like it fits in Diablo. And if this were any other game but a Diablo game, I probably wouldn't complain this much. Like, I don't complain about it looking like that in Torchlight. I don't complain about the over-the-top stuff going on in Torchlight, because to me, that's Torchlight. This is Diablo 3. It should look like Diablo. Diablo should not look like he was recruited into the Zerg. The first time I saw him, it just looked like somebody's like, oh, we've got this model for a Zerg, let's throw it in. I know Blizzard isn't that lazy. I know Diablo was designed to look that way. In fact, he kinda does look like Diablo, but search for a Zerg from StarCraft 2. Search for Diablo from Diablo 3. Tell me that Diablo would not fit in StarCraft. The original Diablo would not. He's like a big reptilian demon thing. So even if you try to say, hey, he's different in this game for storyline reasons. I just almost spoiled something. He's different in this game for storyline reasons, let it go. I can't let it go because the design is still there. He doesn't look like a bunch of demons put together. He looks like a Zerg. I can't get around it. This is my main complaint about the game, by the way. That because I have to look at it all the time, and it just takes me out of the feel that Diablo gives me. The second thing is that the plot is incredibly predictable. Me and Gene, we both had it called. Because it's Diablo 3, you know you're going to be fighting Diablo. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But the mystery of Diablo 3 is who's harboring who's harboring Diablo. Me and Gene had it called before midway through Act 1, people. And then a lot of the other major plot points, I had predicted ahead of time. And I don't think it was due to... In some points, it was picking up on clues that Blizzard gave us, and in other points it was just painfully obvious, when I think the game would have been better if it wasn't painfully obvious. Diablo's reveal should be, well, where he comes from exactly, how he comes back. That should be something that shocks you. That should be like a major turning point in the story. That it should be something that you shouldn't be able to look at a character and say, yeah, Diablo's that guy. In Act 1, Diablo doesn't even appear again until Act 4. But you shouldn't be able to call it that easy. I just feel that it would have been much better if it just hadn't been so plain obvious. I know the Diablo series isn't known for its story, but they threw in a whole lot of lore into this one. They went balls to the wall. Blizzard put some effort into this. And that's why I care about the story now. Whereas before it was, there's big evil demon, go kill it. Now they're throwing in twists and stuff. Blizzard, they put an effort into it. I just wish they would have gotten more for their money. The plot is completely predictable. It just is. That's why I was able to rush throughout most of it and not feel like I missed anything. We're going to move on to probably the only thing that has to do with game mechanics that really annoyed me. And that's actually the weapon and armor properties. They just seem odd and off. There's a lot of gold. There's a lot of upping the amount of gold you find, upping your chance for magic items. Back in Diablo 2, those were actually fairly rare enchantments to find. But now they're commonplace. So along with the whole you pick up gold from further away. I mean, these are really common, and to me, they're wastes of magical item abilities. For gold and magic find, that should be a whole lot more rare. It shouldn't be common. And then there's the whole gold pickup radius. Ugh. It's useless. It's just there to waste a slot, as is the picking up more health from health orbs. I think health orbs should just restore a percentage of your max HP. They shouldn't have a base that is modified by the items you pick up. And by the way, if you spec yourself for, oh yeah, I'm going to do most of my healing from health orbs, that is the wrong answer for the boss battles in this, where it's you and the boss. Nothing's going to drop health orbs for you. I was able to get through a lot of bosses due to the Templar. He's a healer, except for Diablo, which, spoiler alert, you fight him alone. No healer. I had a big problem with this, and I will complain a little bit about this. Diablo is way too easy. As a barbarian, I kept him stun locked the whole fight. He didn't hit me once. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, that takes a lot of skill, or that's nigh impossible, you only have a chance. I have 3 or 4 abilities that I could stun him with. I was actually able to keep him stunned for most of it and dodge most of his other attacks. He was way too easy once you figured out that, oh, he's weak to stunning, or whatever else he could be weak to. I don't think bosses should be immune, but I think they should have a higher resist to that sort of thing. But anyways, this review went on a whole lot longer than I thought it would. All in all, I have more good than bad to say about Diablo 3, really. I like this game. I would recommend you wait for a price drop, until it hits the $20, $30 range. I'd recommend waiting until then, but it is a solid game. It stands on its own right. It wasn't everything everyone was expecting, but I do believe it delivered the basics of Diablo and didn't stray too far from the pack. I mean, I could complain about not being able to pick skill trees, or not be able to assign ability points in my main abilities every time I level up, but that was something that came in new, essentially, for Diablo 2. That was deepened from Diablo 1, and they wanted to make it more accessible. And instead of putting a really stupid system for their skills and leveling up process to make it easier, they put in a system that I believe is pretty solid. So all in all, I do think Diablo 3 is a good game. I'd recommend people play it. Heck, if anybody wants my real ID, I'll send it over to you. We'll play a co-op game or something. I know I'm probably going to play through Nightmare Mode and try out Hell and give people an update once I'm there, but this is the Nighthammer, signing off.